Hello, it's me, Joey. Yep, I'm tired. I've been up for the last 4 days keeping the wood stove going all night so that I could survive this minus 35 snap. There was no snow on the roof like there usually is and around the building to help insulate it. It's been a chilly one for us here in Wells, but that's not so unusual. In fact, I don't think these temperatures even broke our records. I do recall on January 15th, 2000, we hit minus 41 here in Wells actual temperature. So that's only a day from today. That's tomorrow. 4 years ago. So, anyways, lots of records broken across Canada, not just for cold. Let's talk about it right now.
Sketched out.
Big moose getting angrier. Now, if you jump off the roof. There she goes. You never know what can happen. What's going on, here she comes.
That was pretty close.
So before we look at all the records that were broken in Alberta, this one's not on the list in Environment Canada yet, and I'm sure it will be very soon. Minus 50.6 official and Keg River. The hottest spot in Alberta, minus 23.4 yesterday in Nakiska Ridgetop. So definitely very cold in Alberta. And these are temperatures that were broken. So overnight, low temperatures beginning Thursday. On Saturday, the following temperatures were broken. We already talked about Thursday and Friday a little bit yesterday, Brandon and I, on the live stream. You can find that on this channel if you go to live videos. Some of these records are substantially broken. Bow Island, 40. Brooks, where Brandon lives, minus 42.2. It's still close to minus 40 this morning there. It has been minus 40 this morning. Camrose just smashed an old record that was set in 1969, and they've kept these records over 100 years. So that is a big jump. From basically minus 45 is the new record. Cardston area minus 38.8. Some of these aren't smashing, no. 39 in Claresholm, 43 in Cold Lake, 46.2 in Coronation. That smashes the old record that was set the year I was born, minus 38. 1912, they've been keeping records there for a long time. So that's something to take an eye on. Those are the kind of records that have extra meaning because they have extra length. Crow's Nest set, Drumheller 43 substantially breaks its old record. They've been kept in that area since 1923, even though that old record was set in 2005. Edmonton International Airport's been one of the coldest places off and on over the last 4 days. Lots of 40s. It was one of the first places to hit 40 in Alberta, southern Alberta at least. I would call Edmonton the line and south where the beginning of southern Alberta begins, and everything above that's kind of moving your way into northern Alberta. That's just how I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. They've been keeping records there since 1959, and that broke by a number of degrees, 45.3. The old record was 41.7. Edson, Alberta breaks its old record by 3 degrees, and they've been keeping records there since 1916. That one was set in 1972. Elk Island, 41 degrees. That's fairly substantial. The old one was set in 2020. And that was during that same cold snap I was referring to when Wells got down to minus 41. And I remember that day well because I had to go to now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of peace now between myself and the ex-wife, but there was a family court date that had to happen that day. And I remember getting in the car and it wouldn't start and it was minus 41. And I just thought, what kind of misery? What have I done that the universe picked today of all days? And that was one of the coldest days I'd ever actually experienced physically myself. Where, just dead air, not wind chill included. I experienced wind chills in the 60s and whatnot in Alberta. But as Brandon and I were saying yesterday, wind chill isn't an exact science. It's like the air temperature. And I think it's important to recall that because people will recall the wind chill and say, oh, it's minus 60. Well, no, it was not minus 60. I was in Alberta. It was minus 39 and there was 75 kilometer an hour winds plus. So we were talking well in the high minus 50s, 60s for wind speed, wind chill, right? Esther, Alberta, that's a huge jump. But they've only been keeping records there since 1985. But that 46.5 is very cold, absolutely. 43.2 in Hendrickson. Milk River smashes its old record, but they've only been keeping records there since 1994. 44.2 for there. 1.4, it breaks its old record by 6 degrees. Red Earth. So 1.4 smashes its old record, kept it since 1928, and that was set in the year I was born, minus 35. Red Deer breaks substantially its old record, and they've been keeping records there since 1904. That's a long time. So we see that cold snap in 2005. A lot of records were set at that time. That was a good one. Red Earth Creek area substantially breaks it, but they've records not been kept there for very long. So Stony Plain kept there a little longer. 41. That's a 6-degree jump. So that's a big deal. Sundre 44.5 They've only been keeping records there since 1993. But Vegreville, that's a pretty good jump, 44.6 up from 39.5. Since 1918, they've been keeping records there. Wainwright, 46.3. So we're talking 7 degrees separation there. Temperature records on Friday were as such. We talked about some of these with Brandon and I yesterday. Bow Valley, 45. Breton, 42. That's a big jump from its old record that was set in 1970. Camrose, 42. Cardston, 39. Claresholm, 39. We'll try to go to some of the higher values here. Cold Lake, 42. 42 Coronation. 40 in Drumheller. So lots of Edmonton broke its old record of 45.9 at the International Airport. Big jump in Edson area, 42 on Friday night. Elk Island, 41. Esther, 40. 45.9 in Fort Chipewyan. Grand Prairie, 42.5. So even Grand Prairie broke its record that was kept in 1922. Grand Prairie, it gets very cold up there, so that's telling. 46.1 in Hendrickson Creek. That breaks the old record by 6 degrees. High River breaks its old record by 5 degrees. And they've been keeping records in High River since 1913. That's just outside Calgary, if you've never been there. That's where the big floods were almost 20 years ago. Highville area, no, 15 years ago. Highville area, 42.6. So some big numbers here, right? Some big numbers. Milk River, 42.5. That's a pretty big jump. Record's not been kept that long there. 45 in Nordegg. So that breaks its old record by almost 6 degrees. And the records have been kept there in Nordegg since 1915. So that's a big jump. Some of these others, this is a pretty big deal, this cold weather snap. Lots of 40s, Pincher Creek, Red Earth Creek area, 42 again. Rocky Mountain House, they've been keeping records there since 1915. That's a long time. So 43.1 in Rocky Mountain House. Breaks the old record by 3 degrees. That was kept since 1935. Slave Lake, Stavely sets new record. A pretty good one. Stavely, that's not far from Nanton, Alberta on Highway 2 there. So it breaks its old record substantially. Records kept there since 1914. Stettler area, 41. Records kept since 1918. Strathmore breaks its record. Sundre by 4 to 5 degrees. Tabor. So these are lots of Three Hills. Big jump. 42.3 is a new record. The old records stand since 1950, and they've been keeping records there for over 100 years. Vegreville, Wainwright. It's very hard for me to say Wainwright for some reason. I always want to say Rainwhite. Waterton. So those are lots. And look at it, even continues on Thursday. Lots of records were set. 46 in Hendrickson Creek. Big jump. So that's awesome. Awesome weather. Bella Coola, new record. Look at this, Blue River, 39.9. So they've been keeping records in Blue River since 1946. Cranbrook set its new record. They've been keeping records. Some of these are some of the oldest records kept in BC. 1901, minus 36.8. They've been keeping records in Cranbrook for a long time, and they've never had 36.8 until now. Creston, not too far, 27.2. The Kootenays are rarely this cold. I mean, it does get quite snowy there. Even the Malahat down to minus 12. Lillooet, 24. That's pretty cool for Lillooet. Nakusp, minus 23. Nelson. So these are definitely not near as cold as we saw. Penticton, though, it broke an all-time record. So it's not just a daily record, but this is since 1907. They've been so over 115 years. They've been keeping records there. It's the coldest temperature ever recorded in Penticton, 27.6. So that's amazing. Salmon Arm even hit 30. Revelstoke was close with 27. Sparwood smashed its old record. They've been keeping records there since 1969. So, it's 55 years. Minus 40. That breaks its old record by 7 degrees. That was set in 2005. That cold snap of 2005. It just keeps coming up on here, doesn't it? Even Trail, minus 26. And West Vancouver, look at that, minus 12.4. Broke a record set in 1993. Other places that saw some interesting. We had this big storm going through Eastern Canada, and here are some interesting values for winds that were on Saturday night measured in Nova Scotia. Yarmouth, 95, Baccaro Point, 93, Breer Island, 115 kilometers an hour. Greenwood, there's a Canadian Forces base there, 104 kilometers an hour. So these are very substantial, damaging winds. Even Halifax Airport getting up to 90, Caribou Point, 96, Henry Island, 121 kilometer an hour measures. Les Sweat winds that were in Western Cape Breton. Saint Joseph, Des Moines, measured 150 kilometer an hour winds. But that's only a little bit faster than Grand Etang and Plateau and Cheticamp, which got 145 at Cheticamp. Those are crazy winds, and Cheticamp Island 137. Ontario, because of its Texas low, did also experience some record-breaking weather, and some of this was up in the area that my mother lives in. This happened on Saturday. Bancroft got 28 centimeters of snow, so I hope you're enjoying your snow, Mom. Bancroft, Algonquin Park. So it seems like that north of Highway 7 corridor in Eastern Ontario got the snow like it should. Ottawa even got 19 centimeters. That set a record for it. That blow your mind. Volunteer observers and social media got 30 centimeters in Plevna, Haliburton, and Plevna. So those are both areas, by way of Crow, that are pretty close to Mom. So I'm guessing Mom got in the measure 20 to 30 centimeters yesterday. Some other values that are pretty interesting. Stittsville, what's outside Ottawa, 27 centimeters. So good snowfalls. Some of the peak wind gusts that reported by official weather stations, 100 kilometers an hour in Chatham, 87 both in Hamilton and Toronto Island and Windsor. St. Catharines, 86 in Trenton, Ontario, where CFB Trenton is. The town I was born in, Trenton, Ontario, 80 kilometers an hour. The intense low pressure that tracked through the Maritimes had some wind gusts in Prince Edward Island that measured 89 in North Cape, 83 in the town of Summerside, 78 in Charlottetown, but East Point takes the cake with 93. Well, what about Quebec? What happened there? We did have some pretty big snowfalls, and that included Saint Jerome with 35 centimeters, Saint Columban, Laurentians region 20 to 40 centimeters. It's saying. So these are the summaries in snowfall. Some big time snowfalls, and strong winds observed in Sherbrooke 87 and Saguenay 111. So these are some big time snowfalls and winds that were observed throughout Eastern Canada. Point de Mont's 98 kilometers an hour. So some strong winds in Quebec yesterday too. Saskatchewan, yes, it did set records, and that set records for cold. Assiniboia, 38.6. Warmer values than we see in Alberta. Again, Alberta is the record taker for all of Southern Canada. If you are not in the territories, I call that Southern Canada. You're in the provinces. East End, 38.5. We had some crazy winds in southerly Alberta, like in Kindersley, 44.1 was a new record that was set. They've been keeping records there since 1942, and there was crazy winds in southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, right? So the wind chills would have been blow your skin right off. Leander, 45.9. Lucky Lake, 40.7. So some pretty good temperatures still. Scott area, 42.6. That's a new record that's stood since 1916. So only 0.4 degrees, but they've been keeping records there 110, 115 years almost. So that's awesome. That is all of the records that were broken. And if we still look right now, as moving on to 12:30, and we still have in Alberta reported temperatures right now, so we could see some more record-breaking values. Although it doesn't seem to me like they're quite as bad, maybe as they were yesterday. Seems to be warming up a little bit now, warming up to minus 35. But we do no, we don't. Sorry. Do have 38s in the high. No, so Wycroft's got a 38 reported there. Dawson Creek right now, though, Fort St. John area, Moberly's got 39 below. Out in the Braden Road, where the Sunset Community Pasture is, where I did a lot of cowboying and fencing and things like that, 38 below is being measured there, and the same with Dawson Creek. And we do have some pretty good-looking breezy winds, 5 kilometers, nothing crazy, but that will just add a little bit more to that suffering. And through BC, we're all in the mid-20s through the rest of the province. And then if you go further south, we are all below 20s once you kind of get below that Blue River, Williams Lake kind of line and move south. Except for in the Rocky Mountains, where Cranbrook's kind of mirrors what's going on in the central to northern BC. And if you get right to the Rocky Mountains, Elford still got some pretty cold values in there, 27s, 28s, and things like that in the mountains. So some cold weather still in the up and high river, still Pekisko, minus 30s being reported there. 35s across southern Alberta, minus 36 at CXFM. I got a couple evenings of cold weather. We could still see some pretty drafty temperatures in BC on Thursday night. So that's still, but we do have storms moving in by the weekend, and that is going to push that weather back out. So we'll have more on the coming snow soon. But for now, there's your warmer weather coming by this weekend. The cold snap will be over. Central BC will have daytime values. Look at that. That's at 0 hours. That's at midnight, right? So if we go to 12 in the afternoon, let's go to 1700. So we got pretty nice weather expected next weekend in BC. So enjoy it. The north will still be darn cold, and so will be the eastern portion of Quebec, perhaps into the Laurentians, maybe even definitely Labrador and the Torn Gap Mountains especially. So I hope you found all that helpful. Thanks to my sponsors and patrons and supporters.
I would just like the world to know how thankful I am to my patrons and supporters.
Thank you, everybody!
And if you want to help me out, please hit share, like, subscribe. Keep checking out other videos on the channel. I got all kinds of weather videos, firefighting videos, comedy videos, Frankie McDonald's show that we make every week, live streams on weather, forecasts. I try to do a little bit of everything here, so please do keep coming on back. And thank you very much, everybody. Have a warmer week. Bye for now.